Hi, my name is MWay, and I'm applying to become an advanced level RAP facilitator through the Copeland Center. I'm pretty excited to have this opportunity. I'm here today to talk to you about the 5 key recovery concepts, as well as wellness recovery action planning, or RAP. So the 5 key recovery concepts are hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support. So the first one we'll talk about is hope. There is much to hope for, and one can get well and stay well. This is something that I tell myself every day, so that I can remember if I'm having a bad day, that day too shall pass. I also look to people around me who I perceive as having greater struggles than I do, and I get a lot of hope from them because I see them still going about their day-to-day lives, even though I perceive they have these greater struggles. So hope really is all around you, and you can get hope from different facets in your life. The second key recovery concept is personal responsibility. So you are the expert on yourself, and you need to take responsibility for your own wellness. Personal responsibility really resonates with me because I have a tendency to be a perfectionist, and I need to remember that if I make a mistake, I need to take responsibility for that mistake and say, I've messed up. And it's okay to say that, and I need to remember that it's okay to say that. Taking personal responsibility also means that you're taking charge of your wellness, and that you're taking responsibility to follow that path to wellness. The next key recovery concept is education. Education comes in many forms. It's not just, reading a book. Education can be educating yourself about your health, educating yourself about your rights, educating yourself about the resources that are around you. It can come from reading a book. It can come from, attending classes at a local educational institution. It can also come from going to groups, talking to experts in that area. It's really endless on how you get this education piece. I find I get a lot of education just from talking to people around me who have different experiences than I do. The next key recovery concept is self-advocacy, and so you need to become an advocate for yourself, and you also need to know your rights. One of the personal bill of rights that they talk about in RAP is the ability to make mistakes. As I said, in personal responsibility, I have a huge issue with making mistakes. It's gotten better, but because of the RAP, because I've learned that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to forgive myself for making those mistakes. The next key recovery concept is support, and it's a key component of RAP, and it's important to have supportive people in your life. And one thing that RAP has taught me is that support comes in many different shapes and forms. I've been part of RAP groups where people seek support from their pets. As well as when I first took RAP and they were talking about the different support systems, I was listing off my family and my friends, and I wasn't really thinking outside the box for me. And one of the things that really resonated with me was when somebody said their family doctor is a support. And I knew that that was true because I use my family doctor as a massive support all the time. If I see another doctor and I'm not understanding what they're asking of me or what they've said to me, I know I can call my doctor, and she will let me vent. She'll explain things clearer, and she always asks me, does that make sense for you? So that is a really big component of support for me. The next thing we're going to talk about is RAP, or Wellness Recovery Action Planning. The thing about RAP is that you must create your own RAP. RAP is very individual, and because you're the expert on yourself, you know what's going to work for you and what doesn't work for you. The other thing I love about rap is that it's ever evolving and ever changing. My rap today isn't the same as it was 5 years ago, and that's really important because 5 years ago I was a different person than I am today. And so I really think that that's a valuable aspect of rap, is that it is so adaptable and that I can create a rap for different areas of my life. I know people who've created rap for fitness. I personally haven't, but I think it's a great idea because my rap has been so successful for my own mental health. So the first part of rap is the wellness toolbox, and that is things you can do to keep yourself well and things you might do to stay well. And these are safe, simple solutions. So for me, a big one is running. Running is my #1 wellness tool. When I'm stressed, when I've had a bad day, a lot of times I can really alleviate some of that tension just by going for a run. In fact, my husband, who's one of my key supporters, he's able to recognize in me when I'm stressed and says, you need to go for a run. So it's really effective for me, although it might not be effective for somebody else. And as I said earlier, that's one of the really big benefits of rap, is that it's so individual. Some other wellness tools that people that I have been involved in rap groups have said are, going for a walk, being out in nature, playing with their dogs, playing with my kids is another wellness tool. I really enjoy their, unjaded outlook on life, and so when I'm feeling down, I just get to their level and play with them, and I can look through their eyes. They also keep me real and keep me centered. So that's a really good wellness tool for me. Some things that you might do is see a movie. So that's not something you might do every day, but if you need to, you could. The next part of rap is the daily maintenance list, and it has 3 parts. The first part is what I'm like when I'm well. The second part is things I need to do every day to stay well. And the third part is things I might do to stay well. So the first part, what I'm like when I'm well, that's a list of the characteristics that you have when you're well. So what does it look like? If somebody were to look at you and say, is she well or isn't she well? This is the list that they can draw from. So some things on my list are energetic, smiling, sarcastic, I'm able to take a joke easily, things like that. Some people have put on their list, they're getting dressed. Another one that for me is I'm wearing makeup. If I'm not wearing makeup, that's a good indicator for people that I'm not well, which we'll talk about later. The next thing, the next part of the daily maintenance list is things I need to do every day to stay well. So these are like short, simple things that you need to do on a daily basis to maintain your wellness. So some examples of that are make your bed, take your medication, put your makeup on, have 3 solid meals a day, get 8 hours of sleep a night. So this is just things that need to be in place on a daily basis. And the third part is things I may do to stay well. So these could also be taken from your wellness toolbox. So one thing for me that I like to do when I'm sort of feeling down or feeling really blah is to go and get my hair done or get a manicure or a pedicure or something along those lines, just something to pamper myself and to make me feel good about myself again. And again, that's not something I would do every day. It's something I would do, once in a while. The next part of the Wellness Recovery Action Planning, or WRAP, is the triggers. So triggers are external events that cause an internal response. And so these responses can be negative or positive. So this is just, when something happens and you get that feeling in your stomach that is either a negative or a positive response. So an example of some of my triggers are when I'm criticized. If I know I'm going to be criticized, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, if I know I'm going to be criticized, I need to do something for that. We'll talk about that in a minute, which is the triggers action plan. I'm sort of getting ahead of myself. Some other things that rap groups I've been involved in, one woman said that the smell of alcohol, rum in specific, was a huge trigger for her. So those are some examples of triggers. So then we create a triggers action plan. And so a triggers action plan are things that you can do when you know that you're going to be experiencing a trigger, or when you come in contact with a trigger that maybe you weren't anticipating. So what are different things you can do? So for me, as I said earlier, when I know I'm going to be in a situation where I could potentially be criticized, I need to really do some positive self-talk in my head prior to that situation. If I get into a situation where I'm criticized and I was totally blindsided by it, I typically go back to my wellness toolbox and go for that run to try, to get rid of some of the emotion attached to it, and then I can sort it out. I know some other people that I've talked to, as part of their triggers action plan, they have deep breathing, journaling, things like that. The next part of RAP is early warning signs. So early warning signs are subtle indicators that your wellness is starting to waver a little bit. And these can be things that you don't even notice in yourself, but people around you notice. So as I said earlier, my husband is a really big supporter of mine, and he's really able to notice when my mood shifts. So things for me that change is I start to become less happy. So I'm not joking, I'm not smiling, and I become a little bit more irritable a lot quicker. And so typically when that happens, my husband will say to me, have you gone for a run lately? Maybe you should go for a run. That's his go-to one, because that's mine, and so he's really supportive of that. I know for some other people that when things or their early warning signs are they don't shower or they don't brush their teeth in the morning. The next thing is the early warning signs action plan. And so as I had said earlier, when my husband notices these changes in me, he'll tell me to go for a run, because that's part of my action plan, is when my mood really starts to shift. I like to go, running it really releases those endorphins for me and gets me going again. Other things are, you can draw from your wellness toolbox again, and other things that I do again is pamper myself. I also call my supporters, friends especially, when I can't talk to my husband about things. I have a couple of friends that are very key supporters in me and understand me and know what to say to me and what not to say to me. The next thing is when things are breaking down. Now this is critical because this is your last step to intervene before a crisis. And so this is a really specific list. So for me, when things are breaking down, I'm not wearing makeup. That's a really good indicator. I'm also not exercising. So if I haven't exercised in, 3 days and I'm not sick, that's a really good indicator that things are breaking down for me. And so, triggers and triggers action plan, we're gonna take when things are breaking down. Action plan needs to be created. So this is the first stage in intervention before your crisis. And again, this needs to be very specific. And so you need to create your action plan, and this step needs to be specific and to the point. So for me, part of my when things are breaking down action plan is to have my supporters, especially the ones that I work out with, come and drag me out of the house and get me working out. They're really good in motivating me to get me out of the house and exercising. The other thing I need to do is call my doctor, because I need to figure out why I'm getting to this point and why things are breaking down for me, and also see if there needs to be some meds adjusted. Some other concrete examples, are ensure you're having 3 solid meals a day, ensure I'm getting, 8 solid hours of sleep a night. Those are other examples. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the crisis plan. So the crisis plan has 9 parts. And I know some people say, well, if we're creating this plan, why do we have to create a crisis plan? So sometimes, despite our best efforts, we go into crisis. Sometimes we're totally blindsided by the crisis, and I really like the crisis planning part of it because it allows me to know that if I do go into crisis, I have a safeguard in place. So I have something in place that allows me to maintain control when I can't be in control, because I'm a bit of a control freak. So the crisis plan has 9 parts. The first part is what you're like when you're well. So again, this is that indicator. How are your supporters going to know that you're not well and you're in crisis? Sometimes, this is a really similar list to the daily maintenance list, what I'm like when I'm well. The second part of the crisis planning is indicators that you need to take over, or symptoms. So what are the symptoms that you're in crisis? So these are the signs that indicate that others may need to step in and take responsibility for your care and make decisions on your behalf. So one of the things for me that indicates that is a lot of spending. So if I start spending a lot of money, people know she's in crisis. The third part is supporters, or who takes over for you. So as we talked about earlier in with the 5 key recovery concepts, you have supporters in your life. WRAP suggests 5 supporters, and this is the part of your crisis plan where you include who you're okay with being around you, also who you are not okay being involved with you during a crisis. So for example, for me, my mom is really helpful in my day-to-day life. However, when I'm in crisis, not so much. We just are too similar and we butt heads, and we just are on different playing fields at that point in my life. The fourth one is medication, and this includes the names and numbers of your physicians, a copy of your health insurance, any medications you're currently taking, as well as any herbal supplements you're taking. This is where you would list all things like that. The 5th one is treatments. So this is the treatments that you would like to have done, and it can also include alternative therapies. So some people find it's really beneficial to have acupuncture or things like that. This is where you would include that. Number 6 is home or community care or respite. So for some people, going to hospital isn't really an option, and it's not their best option. And so this is the section where you would talk about what is going to help you stay in your home the longest. The 7th part of the crisis planning is treatment facilities. So if you do need to go to hospital, what hospital, if you have a choice, what hospital will you go to? Which one should people avoid? The 8th part of your crisis planning is help from others. So during this section of the crisis planning, this is where you would put what you need people to do. So a big one for me is who's going to watch my children? Obviously my husband, but if he needs to be with me, then who's going to watch my kids? This is a section where you could also put who's going to take your pets, pay your bills, clean your house, all of those things that need to happen while you're in crisis. The 9th part of the crisis plan is inactivating the plan. So this is a list of indicators for your supporters that will indicate to them how will they know when you're not in crisis anymore. So a big one for me is exercising again, wearing makeup, feeling them seeing me motivated to get out and do things. So your crisis, it's important to note that your crisis plan can be a legal binding document if signed by a lawyer, but that's not the case everywhere, so you need to get it checked in your specific area. just because that's the case doesn't mean it will be followed as well. That brings us to the post-crisis planning, and this is the timetable for you to resume your responsibilities that you handed off during crisis. So how will you get back to your regular day-to-day life? When you go back to work, is it going to be part-time, full-time? Are you going to take your kids 1 day, 2 day, 3 days a week? So how will you do that? During this section, it also needs you to list people you want to thank, as well as those who you need to make amends to. So who are you going to thank for helping you during your time of crisis, and who might you need to say I'm sorry to? Typically when I go into crisis, after I'm done crisis, I need to say I'm sorry to my mom for excluding her. And I know I need to do that because it's important to her and it's important to maintain our relationship. So that concludes the 5 key recovery concepts, as well as the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. And thanks.